Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf. I hope you had a very good start of 2017 and you are ready for my first Books Weekly of the new year, which is, if you are new to my channel, my weekly video in which I discuss the books that I've either finished from a previous week or read last week or started this week. There were no books left over from the last week of December. I just wanted to finish every book and start 2017 with a clean slate. Yeah, I know. I'm just weird that way. And 1st of January I picked the first book of the year, and that was Patchett, State of Wonder. I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and lucky for me, Nicola from Robotnik, I'll leave a link to her channel down below, wanted to read the book as well, so we had a buddy read in the first week of January. It was, by the way, not the first book I finished, that was the next book, but it was the first book that I started, and that's why I want to start my first Books Weekly of 2017 with this book. Most of you might have heard of Ann Patchett. She is an American writer born in 1963, born in Los Angeles, but moved to Nashville when she was very little and has lived there ever since. Her most famous book is Bel Canto, published in 2001, and just last year in 2016 she has published a new novel, Commonwealth. And I think for some of you at least, she might also be known for the fact that in Nashville there was no good bookstore anymore, and a couple of years ago she decided to co-found an independent bookstore, Parnassus Bookstore, I think in 2011 or 2012, which has been thriving ever since. The State of Wonder was published in 2011, and it follows the story of three scientists. Well, two scientists mainly, two female scientists. One is Marina Singh. She used to be a doctor, but there happened something in the past, so she went into pharmacology, researching cholesterol. And then there is an enigmatic and elusive older researcher, Annick Swenson. Both women work for the same company, and Swenson has moved to Brazil, to the Amazon, some very recluse village, nobody knows exactly where, in order to do research about fertility, because she encountered a tribe there, the Lakishi, and the women seem to be fertile until they die. So the story is about, first of all, the medicine, the research, but mainly it's about Marina Singh trying to locate Annick Swenson and also trying to find out what happened to a colleague of hers who had been going to the Amazon in order to find a Swenson and disappeared or died. And I thought that the story was, it interested me. And Ann Patchett can certainly write a good sentence, and she can write a good scene. But my problem with the book was, and I think Nicola had the same problems, although she was a bit more generous with the star rating, because I gave it 2 stars in the end on Goodreads. But my problem with the book was that it never really came together for me. It felt a bit like Bohemian Rhapsody. Bits and pieces and good scenes, but the overall story felt muddled and too long, too slow in the beginning, as if the author started the book not quite knowing where she wants to go, and then writing and writing in order, well, to fill the pages until she knows where the book will be going. And then once she obviously realized where she wants the book to go, with a quite, well, controversial ending, it's just another 10 or 20 pages, so let's just finish the book. Probably she had a deadline. That's how it felt like. So I can't really wholeheartedly recommend the book, but I know that there are many people whose opinion I value really loved it, especially the part in the Amazon with anaconda fighting and the rites and rituals of the tribe. So my advice to you is, if you want to read Anne Patchett and you are interested by the topics that I just mentioned, maybe just try it out yourself. I think it's really, this book is probably really a matter of very, very subjective taste. The second book I read in 2017, to be more precise, like I said, it was the first book that I finished, second book that I started, is a non-fiction book, a memoir, and that is Maggie Nelson, The Argonauts. The Argonauts was published in 2016. I bought it right after it came out, and it has been sitting on my to-read shelf ever since. Maggie Nelson is best known for her poetry. She's a contemporary American writer, and for her non-fiction. She published, for instance, a book about the murder of her aunt, Jane. And the memoir is centering around topics. So it's not a memoir in the sense that it's a linear account of her life or a certain period of her life, but it's more shorter and longer snippets of text centering around a certain theme. And the main themes in the book are gender and sexuality, and as the core, I would say, is the relationship between Maggie Nelson and the artist Harry Dodge, who is described on the back of the book as gender fluid, a trans woman, if I understand it correctly. This relationship between the two is the centerpiece. And the first half really fascinated me. I think Maggie Nelson is really well read, and she the reflections about her sexuality, about gender, about the relationship with Harry, about Harry's sexuality and gender fluidity, I thought were really fascinating. The second half of the book didn't quite grab me. That's probably because the second half of the book is focusing on Maggie's pregnancy, and that's just a subject that for me personally, I'm not that interested in it. But still, it's a really fascinating way of writing a memoir. And if you're interested in to learn more about Maggie Nelson and her relationship with Harry Dodge, or if you're interested in the topics gender, sexuality, identity, pregnancy, then I can certainly recommend The Argonauts. My third book of 2017 was also a book that I've been meaning to read since it had been published in 2016, and I just didn't. And that is Rose Tremain, the Gustav Sonata. Rose Tremain is an English author born in 1943 in London, and before the Gustav Sonata, which was, as I said, published last year, she had written, I think, 10 or 11 novels, which I haven't read, and various collections of short stories. She won many prizes, but yeah, I've heard of her and never read it, but the Gustav Sonata sounded interesting, so I wanted to read it. And sometimes you just need a nudge, and this time the nudge, thankfully, came from Simon over at Savage Reads, who read the book as his last book in 2016 and gushed about it in his December wrap-up. I will leave a link to the wrap-up down below. And then I thought, now it has to happen, when I watched the wrap-up. And I picked up the book and I read it in 2 sittings. I couldn't put it down because I thought it was so beautiful and tender and wonderful. The Gustav Sonata is about 2 young boys in around the late 1940s in Switzerland, in a little village, so just after the Second World War. Gustav lives with his mother. His father had died. He was a police officer, and you don't really know what happened to him, only that his mother said he died because of the Jews. And Anton is a young Jewish boy, a very gifted musician, piano player, and the friendship of the 2 boys over the course of many, many years, because the book starts in 1947 and ends in, I think, 2002 or something. Although it's a short book, so it spans quite a lifetime almost. It's really beautifully written. you learn in the middle of the book, there's a sort of an interlude where we go back in time, right before the war, before Gustav was born, and we learn what happened to his father and what happened in the relationship between his father and his mother. That's why I didn't give the book, by the way, 5 stars, but 4, because I was not sure whether this was a good idea to have this interlude. But anyway, the story of the 2 boys, how they grow up, Anton having stage fright and how he deals with that because he wants to be a piano player, but he can't cope with stage fright. And Gustav starts to run a hotel when he is an adult. And the friendship between the 2 is just so tenderly described and sometimes heartbreaking that Simon, I'm really, really thankful and grateful that you gushed about the book in your December wrap-up and that I finally read it in January. And the last book is the book that I've started this week, and I want to mention only briefly, and that's Marisha Pessl's first novel, Special Topics in Calamity Physics. I read this book, it's a reread for me, although for the life of me, I can't remember anything of the book other than that I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's been 10 years, which is, well, it's not a year only or something, but still, it baffles me that sometimes I read a book, I obviously liked it, and I can't remember anything. Anyway, the book is about, is in a college setting. It's about a group of friends centering around the main character, Blue. She is the point of view from which a story is told, and there is a teacher, Hannah, who dies. We learn that right in the first pages that she died, but I don't want to talk more about it because I want to talk more in the next Books Weekly when I read it. I'm reading this, by the way, for a Goodreads book club, the Uncovered book club run by Max from Well Done Books and Rylene from Petfoot and Prongs 07. And the reactions so far are very mixed. I think Max even DNF'd it. But I'll give it another try and I'll let you know whether the 4 stars will be a 4 stars now after 10 years. So this was it for my first Books Weekly of 2017. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.